A Nice Indian Boy, 2024. This is lovely humour. It's an LGBTQIA+ themed film, and it's got a wedding focus. It stars Naveen, who he's the main character. He comes from a South Asian family. The background is South Asian, and he lives in America, as does the rest of his family. The film opens with his older sister getting married in heterosexual marriage, and everyone is saying, "You're next" to him. A lot of people, he's come out as gay, but um, there's this expectation over marriage and starting a family, I guess. It's like there's this awkwardness of, he's out with his parents, and there's this sort of in between, a sort of expectation, that his parents do accept him, but they got a huge amount of awkwardness about it, so they watch Out TV to get an idea of how to treat him and how to understand what is coming up, especially his mother. And his mother is delightful. His father is a bit more of the strong, silent type, probably has a more latent homophobia, but they both are trying hard, I feel. And I'm reminded a lot of my family after coming out, and I came out 37, 38 years ago, and I'm very happy to talk to my younger relatives about anything LGBTQIA+, but with my older relatives essentially who are older than me, I'd feel pretty awkward about it. And in a sense, I would say that Naveen's family are a step ahead in some respects, in that they're really trying to understand and accept him, and that is brilliant. But with um, one thing again from my perspective, half my relatives, one half of my relatives on one side of my family don't know about me at all. I haven't come out to them because they live in a separate country, and I've not seen them for 4 decades. You know, so maybe that's something I'll talk about in a future video. However, concentrating on this, there are so many unspoken rules. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, Naveen's family have seen some films, but one funny thing was like when someone says, "Well, have you watched Bros, the 2022 film?" which I've reviewed and I think is excellent. But, this is taking things up a notch on perhaps films from earlier. So, you know, the understanding by the cis and straight community has gradually improved over the years. And I would say in the early 2020s, it's getting so much better. Hopefully, still is. But of course, now there's this backlash, which is making things so much more difficult for people. Um, and there's the the way that there's um, this. Let's say about another aspect of this film, which is Naveen meets a lad whom he really gets on with, and his name is Jay, and he's played by Jonathan Groff. Naveen's played by Karan Soni. Now, Jay is white presenting. He is actually white, but he was adopted by South Asians or Indian parents. And so he grew up in the culture, and as he gets to know Naveen, he learns. I mean, he's got this confidence that Naveen doesn't have right from the start. I mean, he meets him. He meets him in this. I think it's a Hindu place of worship, and at the start, Naveen's like looking around because he knows someone else is in the room. But the next thing, he encounters him as a photographer, and at this point, um, Jay chats him up and asks if he wants to go and see a film. So they go and see a film. They start hitting off a bit, and then Jay's singing to him, and this sort of really um, doesn't freak out, but it sort of discombobulates Naveen. So there's all these little things that happen that are I love the humor in this film. There's just, 2 different characters. You know that observational humor looks at, cultural differences about, perhaps, extrovert versus introvert, various, different elements of our lives and how they dovetail together when we're getting to know people. And I mean, I sometimes get this little bit of a longing. I mean, I'm ace and I don't expect to have relationships, but when I see things, it sometimes piques that element of me that where I would have and would still love to have family acceptance in that sense if I ever did have a relationship. And this is where Jay's character, because he's now lost his parents, they're both dead, and he talks about how he'd like. I mean, there's a picture at an art exhibition that he has, which features uh, a picture of him with his parents, and it's really endearing, absolutely beautiful. And I thought, well, when he says that he'd really like his he'd have loved it if his parents had got to meet his future love interest, and they never did. And so this is that poignancy, and that really tugged at my heart, even though, you know, in a sense, I think I'm in an even worse state than this couple, and a worse state in some ways, in that I'm not even. I don't believe I'll have a relationship, or I don't see any in the near future. And in some ways, it doesn't bother me. But there's that thing that sometimes it kind of tugs at me. It tugs at my heartstrings, I suppose. So there's a lot of emotional intelligence. There's the element. There's things like balance and fairness. There's where Jay gets to meet Naveen's parents, and he says he's a freelancer, and culturally the in their language, I mean, there's this sort of mix up in that the father doesn't realize that Jay understands when they don't when they aren't speaking in English. I can't remember which language they were speaking, but um, the mother and fathers seem to get the idea that freelance means unemployed. It's like, oof, and they say that. I mean, he can understand. So there's awkwardness there. There's all the things that stray into lying. There's discomfort. There's everything. All the there's a lot of coverage of um, adoption. There's Naveen's sister, Arundhati, who she got married at the start, but she separates from um, her husband in the intervening time in 6 years till when we see Naveen getting to meet this um, Jay. There's a lot of cringe, I guess. There's a different. Oh yeah, one of the quotes I really liked about this film was, "There's a difference between not wanting something and being afraid to want it." See, there's a lot of subtleties, and that's what I really like about films like this. Um, there's one of the central themes and one of the things that comes out about this film as it continues towards its conclusion is that family is all we have. But of course, not everyone has a totally accepting family. And sometimes people, they've lost their key members of family. I mean, Jay still has a sister, I think. I mean, she's at one point, I think, fairly early on at the art exhibition. She's been preparing a lot, and, when she meets Naveen and he asks about her and her brother, and she says that she's been doing most of the preparation because patriarchy. So there's things like that that come up as well. There's, um, now, Arundhati, there's pressure on her to to start a family. I mean, her mother says, her eggs are gonna dry out. So there's that element of family dynamics which really, uh, you know, so much observational humor, but the idea that family is all we have, is one thing that I find slightly disagreeing disagreeable about the sum total of the narrative because for a lot of people in the LGBTQIA plus community, it's found family, it's adopted family, using adopted as slightly different from Jay's position, but it's community members often because many LGBTQIA plus people don't have family to they've been rejected from their family members. Um, so it covers a lot of the messiness of life, but it doesn't really look at all the differences. And so this sort of attention to the importance of family misses that beat where a lot of queer people don't have that. And so we humanity, all of us in humanity, have a sense of belonging. And when you don't have a strong ties to family members, or there's certain things that you can't be totally your whole self about, then you need other people often in your community rather than family members who take on that role. I mean, that's ideally for psychological health. That's, I think, what we um, all strive for when we're going up the Maslow pyramid of needs, the hierarchy of needs. Um, we all have this need for self-actualization, and that means bringing our whole self out, bringing our whole self to work. Again, a tragedy that's often being pushed back at the moment because of the anti-DEI or EDI, the anti-equality, diversity, and inclusion stuff that is happening politically in the world right now. Um, so there's 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 this roller coaster that happens in this film. There's oh, I thought it was really sweet. The bonding, the whole symbolism of everything. Oh, I really love uh this sort of this marriage scenes at the start of the film, and then a lot later on into the film, there's some more wedding marriage scenes. I mean, wedding scenes really, wedding ceremony scenes, South Asian wedding scenes, and they are really sweet, really beautiful. That was the closest I got to um, feeling tearful in this film because I thought it was delicate and beautiful and really meant something. And it's I I I really like this film. I'm going to score it 9 out of 10, despite the slight misgivings I have about the things I say about uh, found family and how that's often quite different. There's so much in this film, so many observations about the cultures, the American culture and the South Asian culture that's covered in this film, this particular um, South Asian culture or Indian culture. I mean, a nice Indian boy. So I was trying to avoid saying Indian too much, and I was using South Asian because I believe that's used more often, certainly in the UK, as an alternative. Um, but yeah, Indian is in the title, so um, well, I think that's it. That's more or less my thoughts. So, love to know what you think about this film. Please hit the like. Please, thanks for subscribing. Hit the notification, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.